America, and I've been living with MS since 2004.
Join the movement.
Yeah, Jeff, please wear less clothes.
Dude, I'm
if you've fallen
please
behind on your taxes, you know that the
walk on the
IRS is
YouTube
already coming for their
Speaking
of,
Jeff's not wearing any clothes today.
Attractive female. Speaking of less clothes, here's my lead from today on my first and 10. A level of toxicity existed within the defensive line group for the New Orleans Saints in 2014. Big money, big egos, big naked bodies literally brawling in the locker room. Yes, you read that their last sentence correct. It's good. Really good.
Toxicity. Make people want to read for sure.
Yeah,
you know?
People, someone in the comments
your tax problems behind you.
What? I never heard about this. Where's the real-time reporting?
I'm like Catherine Terrell reported 2 years ago. That's why I know.
Yeah, where the hell is that, dude? Could save you thousands. So what are you waiting for? Call up them now for a free consultation.
Call 800-798-2477.
What was the guy's name?
Brandon. He got a shout out in this guy.
800-798-2477.
Basically, I was like, they did a cleansing leading up to 2015.
For complete details, please visit
released Junior Galette, and it seemed like Hicks was going to be around, and then they benched him and traded him.
A concert to benefit victims of the deadly Northern California fires coming to San Francisco. The November 9th concert at AT&T Park will feature big-name artists including Metallica and Dave Matthews. Metallica calls the Bay Area home and joined with Matthews to form the Band Together Bay Area Coalition. Former child
I think he got. I think part of it is like
making public claims of a Hollywood pedophile ring.
Give all the effort.
Experience last night where I felt like I was almost going to be killed.
Blame both sides.
Two trucks came speeding at me.
Feldman seeking funds for a documentary about his claims of sexual abuse in the industry. Feldman says he can name at least 6 people involved, including one linked to a major studio.
Well, we've seen him not stick with it. But a zillion times.
Ellen DeGeneres getting slammed on Twitter over what some are calling a sexist Katy Perry tweet. In a happy birthday message to Perry, the comedian talk show host wrote time to bring out the big balloons over an image of her gawking mouth wide at Perry's chest. Because of the recent Harvey Weinstein sex scandal, many fans quick to point out the tweet would never stand had a man posted it. Bono talking about a medical issue that helped him write the band's upcoming Songs of Experience album. The musician saying in a recent interview it was serious enough that it really scared him and sparked some of the creativity needed to write the album, which will be out December 1st. That's entertainment. Jennifer Bolsoni, NBC News Radio.
I'm anticipating a Bono.
I am too.
Hi,
when are we going to try and do the
idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis, or IPF.
We could do
rare lung
we're
disease,
going to
symptoms
have to
that
do
include
them.
breathlessness during mild
I mean,
physical
because it's not as
activity,
long. We could do them at like
chest
11:30.
If you're experiencing these symptoms, see a doctor now. Visit breathlessipf.com.
They're pretty, some pretty easy games.
Uber is adding a multi-stop feature allowing you to add in 3 stops.
We actually made a pick. We actually made a pick on the air yesterday.
If you wanted to do something similar, you had to either change the destination in the middle of a trip, meet friends in one place to catch the same ride, or even order another ride after getting
and they
dropped
beat
off
the
at your first
Falcons.
stop. Riders can
In
split
Atlanta,
the trip.
after being down
This
20
is the latest in a bunch of recent Uber updates that aim to improve customer and
the only thing we know for sure is that the Saints are great.
Russian news sites, social
And then Mike Triplett stinks because he can't get him ranked higher in the power rankings. We told him about that, how someone called and ripped him. That was Triplett's fault.
The only ones that tried to interfere.
All right, 30 seconds.
Russia Today and Sputnik can
30 seconds to what?
They just
What do
can't
you mean?
buy ads.
Shut up.
So you could jam another Rice Krispie treat in your mouth.
My favorite breakfast.
And shed some more clothing.
Chipmunk style.
That's true. Dude.
Comfortable now, baby.
Dave's like, what?
Guys.
Tech report, Larry Olson, NBC News Radio.
$1,000 in your hand? Sounds good, doesn't it? The next keyword is minutes away on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Dunc and Holder on a Country Fried Friday, October 27th. Jeff's here, Clyde's here, Dave is back in studios, and we've got a jammed up Friday show as we always do. Whenever you get closer to the end of the week, you could always use about a 7-hour show because so much is going on, especially now Pelicans back in the mix. And next segment we'll dive into their win. Pelicans much-needed win in Sacramento. DeMarcus Cousins had a game literally for the ages against his former team, so we'll dive into that. And, of course, heavy Saints talk today. Saints going to be taking on the Bears in the Dome on Sunday afternoon, noon kickoff. We will break that down specifically in the second hour because we'll hear from Cam Jordan, his thoughts on the game, and his thoughts on his former teammate and still very good buddy Akeem Hicks. I have a column up right now on NOLA.com about Akeem Hicks being just another name that got away even though the Saints jettisoned him, and now he's playing well elsewhere, so we'll talk a little bit about that. Also, 10:30, we'll have Todd Graffagnini on, the voice of the Tulane Green Wave. They're taking on Memphis tonight, and that will
nice
be
recovery.
Yes,
Very smooth.
I was like, what happened? I got distracted.
Who are they taking on?
No, I got distracted by like something.
That's tonight, right?
That's tonight, right here. Of course, you can listen to it on Sports 1280, the flagship station of Tulane football. And yeah, look, they're taking on a ranked opponent, and there's a not very encouraging stat that ESPN put out this morning.
That you, of course, would retweet and put out there.
It's just a fact.
What was it?
Just because Tulane has lost 51 straight games versus an AP-ranked opponent. It's the longest active streak in FBS and third longest in AP poll history.
Holy cow.
And that was in 1936.
Who was their last win against? That would be interesting to know.
Only 140 characters, bro.
I don't
Let's
know.
ask Graf that.
Do you want to depress him already? He's already depressed
I
as
think
it
it'd be
is.
an interesting question. I mean, I'm assuming it's back when maybe Tommy Bowden was there. They had a great team.
Yeah, I assume maybe 2001, something like that. It could go back that far. But yeah, we'll talk with Todd Graffagnini as look. The weather's supposed to be pretty bad up, and that might actually slow Memphis down. And look, and Tulane fought USF tooth and nail. So and they were top 15 opponents. So, but of course, this is away from Muleman. This is up in Memphis. So we'll talk with Todd about that. Prep Football Friday, of course, every week we have our own Jim Derry, Preps Guru here at NOLA.com, the Times-Picayune. He will join us around 10:45, go over the big prep games. I know one that's going to be at the Shrine, Rummel Curtis.
Here we go.
On the record, I don't suspect that Rummel will win this game.
Down on the alma mater.
Well,
you can't get down. You got to root.
I want them to win, but I just don't know if they're going to win.
After watching them last week, I don't think you should be that down on Rummel. I think Rummel will probably make it a better game. I mean, I'm at most of our prep games now that we do, and after watching them last week, they were good, but they weren't decisive, and it really wasn't. They really didn't put it out of reach until the fourth quarter. So, I would say more than anything, I think they might have a shot. Yeah, against Holy Cross, I would say they actually have probably a better shot than most if they can.
Against Curtis, yes,
Yeah.
they would have. You would think they have I just know they're banged up, and they started hot, and then their offensive line is very. You don't exactly have depth in high school football for your offensive line. So once you get a few guys,
you
injured,
should at
you're
a
in big
5A
trouble.
school. At
It's
a 5A
interesting.
school, you should.
Interesting that you bring that up. I was talking to Archie Manning this week about a story, something unrelated to what we're talking about here. But he mentioned that he's been going to some Newman middle school games of late, and he said some of the opponents only have 14 kids on some of their teams.
Total.
Yes.
So they got to play both ways.
He's saying that he thinks this is a byproduct of the fears of head trauma, concussions, that parents are holding their kids maybe at a younger age or maybe just altogether out of football.
Well, you know who is riding that train and pumps flag football over tackle football at a young age is Drew Brees.
Right.
And so I've talked with him many, many times, written about it, where he just wanted to put out his views many, many times. And I know he has started up a flag football league that he wants to hope spread around. I know his kids playing it. I got plenty of my friends whose kids play in the same league. So I think you're right. I think that is a byproduct of that. So that's
I think back 10, 20 years ago, you would have probably 30 or 40 kids on these middle school teams, wouldn't you think?
Probably.
I mean, that's pretty indicative of a trend, I think, in the other direction. It's probably why Roger Goodell and all the NFL executives are working feverishly to try and improve the player safety measures. I know they've worked on this new helmet. That's one of the things we see in the Saints locker room a lot. The new helmet that a lot of the players are wearing, the helmet technology, for some reason, did not go forward for a long time. It did not improve the helmet. And that's got to be the biggest issue to player safety and head trauma, I would think.
No question about it. And then toward the end of the show, scheduled to appear, Saints Hall of Famer Carl Nix will jump on the show. Carl, of course, one of the most talented offensive linemen to ever play for the Saints. He didn't play for the Saints for that long, but worthy enough, in my eyes, a.k.a. I'm a voter, and I voted for him, to get into the Saints Hall of Fame just because he was dominant as a player. And it's just a different day and age. I don't want to discount his contributions, A, to the Super Bowl team, B, being an all-pro. I mean, if you're an all-pro, for the Saints, you deserve to be in the Saints Hall of Fame. I mean, that's in my standard, that's a given.
Absolutely. I mean, he's more than deserving. He was a dominant player, two-time all-pro. I don't know if the Saints have had anybody be a two-time all-pro in the last 15 years, except for maybe Jari.
And they were all-pro together. I think it was the first time in, I don't want to say history because I don't want to make that jump, but it might be. It's something where it's extremely rare, where both of your starting guards are all-pro caliber. And Carl Nix is going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame tonight, and they're going to honor him on Sunday at the Saints-Bears game. Also, look, Jonathan Vilma's in that class as well. And Jeff, want to take a couple minutes here before we kind of dive into all this. You wrote an awesome column on a good buddy of ours, Jay Romig, who is also getting into the Saints Hall of Fame. And just for the average listener, who I know probably the learned Saints fan has heard his name throughout the years, but he is one of the most essential people on Airline Drive. And again, kudos on the real great column you rewrote on him, and that's in our print editions today and online right now. But just kind of give our listeners just kind of a breakdown on his contributions, because we know what Jonathan Vilma's done, we know what Carl Nix has done, but let's talk about Jay Romig here for a minute.
Well, Jay is he's the longest tenured employee in the building. He's worked for the Saints. He's in his 41st year, and he's worn a number of hats over the years. He started out in the equipment room and then worked in training and for Dean Kleinschmidt, the old trainer. His title is the administrative director. It's kind of a vague title because Jay does a little bit of everything out there. And anybody that has worked for the Saints or has had dealings with the Saints knows Jay, and he's just a great, trusted, loyal ambassador for the entire organization. He's beloved in the building. I had a number of people that couldn't stop praising him when I interviewed him. Drew Brees, Thomas Morstead, Archie Manning, people going out of their way to be a part of the story because they love and respect Jay Romig so much. He's just one of these quiet people that works behind the scenes and does all these thankless jobs that keep the wheels rolling out on Airline Drive, and very deserving to be the winner of the Joe Gemelli Fleur de Lis Award, which goes annually. We vote on that annually to someone that has contributions to the organization that wasn't a player or a coach.
Jeff, what's the quote that Tom Benson gave you on Jay? He's the vice president of everything. Is that what he said?
That's what he and Gail call Jay Romig. And Jay is one of the most trusted people in the building by the Bensons. I mean, they revere him, and rightfully so, because he does so many things. And he's part of that great Romig family. Of course, his father, Jerry Romig, was the longtime PA announcer for Saints games all the way back to Tulane Stadium and the Superdome. And now his brother, Mark Romig, is the PA announcer. Their sister, Mary Beth, is a longtime PR executive in town, worked in the mayor's office for a while. So
head of the what is it? I'm going to screw up the title. What is it, like the travel?
The Convention and Visitors
Bureau?
Yes. And Mark was in that capacity as well. I mean, the Romig family, all of them are just incredibly gifted people in their roles wherever they're working, and also just incredibly nice class acts. And I know that everybody in the Saints organization is excited about Jay Romig going in the Hall of Fame because they know what he means to the building, and he's kind of an unsung hero. That's what Drew Brees called him. Thomas Morstead called him the ultimate utility man. He just kind of does a little bit of everything out there, and I know a lot of people flying in, longtime executives, Dan Simmons, former trainers flying in for it. I mean, a bunch of people to see him receive this honor tonight.
And you said it, one of the nicest people you'll ever meet in your life, period.
Yeah.
I mean, he will bend over backwards to do anything he can to help you, and there are a lot of people who are asking him for help all the time, and he gets it done all the time.
I know, he never says no. He always puts it on his plate. And Drew Brees was just effusive in his praise for Jay. And I think the key quote that he had was, I can't think of anything that we do in the entire building, football or business ops, that Jay isn't involved in some capacity. And I think that speaks volumes to his value in the organization. So it's really nice to see him receive this honor. It's long overdue, and it's going to be fun. I'm going out tonight to congratulate him.
There you go. So why don't we take a break right here on the show, and when we get back, we'll talk Pelicans. If you stayed awake to watch the game, it was on ESPN, nationally televised game. Boogie Cousins had a game for the ages, and just happened to be his first trip back to Sacramento, and more importantly, in the grand scheme of things, they got the win. And so we'll touch on that as well. Again, 10:30, Todd Graffinini will talk Tulane Memphis. 10:45, Jim Derry will talk prep football weekend. Top 11 o'clock hour, we'll start our Saints Bears preview, and then bottom of the hour, scheduled to join us will be Saints Hall of Fame guard Carl Nix. So come on back, Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. We're Dunc and Holder.
The boy said my name's Johnny, and
it might be a sin, but I'll take your bet and you're going to regret, because I'm the best that's ever been.
Johnny, rosin up your bowl.
Fiddlesticks Friday. Fiddle Friday, baby.
At $1,000 now. Text the keyword money to 200-200. You'll get a text.
Yeah, I walked in. I was eating at Clancy's last night. Shocking.
And message rates
and when I walked in to watch the game, like I was sitting at a table, and when I walked in, they were down by like almost 20. I was like, "What is going on?"
Yeah, no, they went into the half down 70-56.
I know, and then they just went off. I mean, they played really well in the second half. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Finally, but they were getting trucked.
Of your closet. What happened to us? I used to summer in the Hamptons,
and this
and
one
now
over here,
I'm
Boogie
stuck
shoots too
behind
many
a pair of
three-pointers,
sweats.
and then
Okay,
literally hits the
maybe
dagger.
He had a good
three-pointer.
game. I give credit where credit due.
Sundays left in me. So take
Well,
me to
yeah,
Goodwill,
I mean,
where
what is he
I
up to,
can
like
really
30% now,
make a
3-pointers?
Your donations to Goodwill create
jobs, 28 great question. I can find it.
education assistance for people.
He's still leading the league in
Find your
turnovers?
nearest donation
I think
center
so.
at Goodwill.org. Donate
It's like
stuff.
no one ever
Create
wants to talk about
jobs.
anything
A message
negative.
from Goodwill and
That's
the
not
Ad
true.
Council.
We have some negative things to talk about.
Boogie only went 3 of 5 from 3.
That's the best.
That's still good.
That's the best he's done all year. I think that's
Jameer Nelson plays 36 minutes.
I know, he played well.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, he played well. 18 points. He was plus 18 in the between original.
He's a great pickup.
They're going to have to lean on him. I'm sure he's not upset about it either.
No.
He's like, well, the team really needs me, and I'm playing well.
Drew having 20.
Eastwan
Moore having 12.
I mean, you need it. Well, what happened to Darius Miller? Why did he even start? Played 6 minutes.
Yeah, that's a great question.
I don't know. I didn't watch any of the game. Like, none.
I caught the second half because I was watching MLS playoffs. And then, I was going to say something about what Jeff was talking about with it's a knockout round. It's supposed to, dude. Atlanta United, Columbus Crew went to penalty kicks. No, went to penalty kicks. Houston Dynamo, Sporting Kansas City went to extra time. Then I turned to the Pels, and then it was good. It was a very good long night of sports.
Oh, we done?
I need to make a quick. Can I make a quick shout out when we come right back?
No. Yes. You can.
What's going on?
College football number 20 Stanford got a touchdown with 20 seconds remaining to avoid an upset and beat Oregon State 15.
That's what you get. That's what you get.
Tonight in Houston with the Astros and Dodgers even at a game.
Is it in now?
That's sports. Frank Arity, NBC News Radio.
All right, 30 seconds.
As owner, you make every dollar count. So what could you do with $10? Go to Vistaprint.com today, and you'll get 500 high-quality
so my cagey, crafty pickup of Alex Collins.
That's less than 2 cents
week
per
3
card.
is paying
and
off.
At Vistaprint,
never even
your
heard of the
satisfaction
guy.
is absolutely
143 yards
so
last
it's never been
night.
easier to turn 500 strangers into
ever heard of him?
connections.
I never heard of him.
Just visit Vistaprint.com.
I think I had 6 players on a buy. Like in my,
at checkout.
I'm scrambling.
That's Vistaprint.com. Promo code 2929.
Somebody's gonna give you a lesson in losing. Somebody's gonna do to you what you've been doing, and I hope that I'm around.
This is Dunc and Holder on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Give you a lesson.
Pelicans 114, the Kings 106, and give kudos where kudos are due. Boogie Cousins got it done last night. Jameer Nelson got it done. Drew Holiday showed up, and Jeff, you said you were just kind of out eating, and then all of a sudden you saw the score of the first half where they were down 70-56.
They were down more than that.
They were down more than that, but yeah, they were down 70-56 at halftime, and then give credit where credit's due. They bounced back. They outscored the Kings 32-17 in the third quarter and 26-19 in the fourth quarter, and won 114-106. The Pelicans are now 2-3, and actually, look, 2-2 on the road. Can't be too upset about that. You don't expect them to be great on the road.
They had to have that game last night. They got the Cavs coming to town. Orlando comes in, I think, next week. Orlando's playing well. You could not afford to lose to the Kings, who really are pretty dreadful. I mean, I don't want to take anything away from the win, but good gosh, that lineup's pretty shaky in Sacramento. So, but wanted to shout out real quick to my sister, whose birthday was yesterday. She turned 62, and she's a loyal Duncan Holder listener on iHeartRadio on the app. So,
well, she was until you said what her age was.
Yeah.
Wow.
Way
to go.
Happy birthday, Pam.
Good shot.
I know she's listening in Dallas. I know we've got a lot of listeners in Dallas.
She's going to call and give you the gong for
No, she's not. No, she's not. Pam's a very...
Don't you know ladies are eternally 29? Don't you know that?
I actually think that age has gone down to about 25. It's changed.
What?
That number
Really?
moves.
I'm just going to leave it at 29.
You can leave it at 29, and then some woman's going to slap you in the face in the street, and when you call it that, I'm just telling you, make it 25, you'll go a lot further.
I love how
29's more believable the older you get, dude.
I love how Clyde slips into this, rap voice or whatever. Whatever he's doing over there. Starts talking smack.
Whatever he's doing over there. Well,
disembodied rap voice.
I'm going to pull a rhyme. Instead of you busting a rap, your boy Boogie Cousins needs a nap. 44 minutes.
Oh, gosh.
Yes, that's how you do it in radio. 44 minutes, and this guy has played, I don't even know how many minutes, the first 5 games. He literally needs a nap, a rest or two.
Yeah, I think him losing that weight in the offseason is allowing him to be more effective in the fourth quarter, even after logging all those minutes. Because remember last year he was laboring up and down the court in the fourth quarter, and opponents were taking advantage of that. They would beat him up and down the court, and he's just in much better condition. And credit to him because he really dedicated himself in the offseason to dropping weight and becoming more of a factor in the transition game, and it's paying off for him.
But this is an historic production night for Cousins. 41 points, 23 rebounds, 6 assists. Boogie became the first player since Joe Barry Carroll in 1987 to have those sort of stats, and he's only the third player in league history to have 40 points, 20 rebounds against their former team, joining only Wilt Chamberlain and Moses Malone. So you knew he was coming out spitfire and venom, wanted to put it to the team that couldn't get it done with. And
he did, but he was very complimentary after the game, though. With the post-game interview with Roz post-game, he made mention to say, because obviously they put together a video. It's like we talked about yesterday, Larry. They were going to honor him at some point, and they did before the game. And I mean, it was a very nice moment. Then afterwards, Boogie was very complimentary of saying, he just wanted to get it over with. But when it's all over, it was nothing but love and nothing but respect for the city and for everything he's done there. So it was a nice moment. But obviously he was playing unconscious last night.
He needed to because they didn't have AD.
Right.
And look, let's give credit where credit's due. That was a game they had to have, but he took it on his shoulders to win the game for the team. They didn't have anybody that could remotely check DeMarcus Cousins, and the Pelicans knew it, and they fed him the ball as often as they could. And that's just smart basketball.
Yeah, he went 14 of 25, 3 of 5 from 3, 10 of 12 from the line. Look, he almost had double-digit offensive rebounds. He had 8 offensive rebounds, 15 on the defensive side, and only 4 turnovers and for Boogie, and that's been a big sticking point for you, Jeff, that he has been asked probably to do too much, and yet when that happens for a big man like him, you're going to turn the ball over, and he was going into this game, leading the league in turnovers?
By a big margin, but look, he's being asked to do a lot. And I think one of the most remarkable things about that statistic that you quoted earlier is that Joe Barry Carroll had a game like that at some point in his career, because he was pretty much maligned. I think he was the number 1 pick. Wasn't he taken ahead of – who was the famous player he was taken ahead of in the draft? It's escaping me right now.
I don't know off the top of my head. Yeah,
I'm looking it up.
Okay, but yeah, you look at Drew Holiday played 41 minutes, 7 of 13, and went 2 of 4 from 3. And look, he was plus 14 in the plus minus, had 20 points. Obviously, a big number for him, and we've been harping on him. He's going to have to play like this until Anthony Davis comes back. And honestly, when Anthony Davis comes back, you still need big production from Drew Holiday. But I just have to say, by far his best performance. He also got 36 minutes out of Jameer Nelson. I mean, we were talking about this in the break, that this guy wasn't on the team a week and a half ago, and now he's playing 36 minutes a night. He went 7 of 13, 4 of 8 from 3. Also had 6 assists. He had 18 points and was plus 18 in the plus minus. So obviously, when he's on the court, they need him, and he's getting the job done. And I'm sure he feels great because he was unemployed, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, I think he's in his 16th or 17th season.
Yeah.
That's remarkable that he's still productive at that age, at a very difficult position to play in the NBA. So they're getting that looks like a very savvy signing. It's amazing that someone else wouldn't have reached out to him, because he has a great reputation as a leader and as like a glue guy in the locker room. Going back to Joe Barry Carroll, he was the number 1 overall pick in 1980. I know what I'm thinking of, because the great Darrell Griffith of the University of Louisville was number 2, but Kevin McHale was the 3rd pick that year, of course, one of the greatest players in NBA history. So the Warriors took Joe Barry Carroll, and the Celtics ended up getting Kevin McHale at number 3. And local listeners will remember this name. Andrew Toney from southwestern Louisiana went number 8 overall that year to the 76ers. And he was a great player for a long time for the Sixers.
You look ahead for the Pelicans, and it's an action-packed weekend locally of sports. You got Saints-Bears on Sunday, but the night before, Smoothie King Center, the king comes to town, LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers, and it's not like they've gotten off to some smoking hot start. They lost to, the Magic and
the Nets.
And the Nets?
The Nets are actually playing surprisingly well. They have no one in the lineup that I can even know except for D'Angelo Russell, and he didn't even play the other night. But they're winning a couple. I think they've won a couple of games already, which is for them pretty promising.
The Cavs are 3-2 coming into. They didn't play last night, so they're gonna be 3-2 coming into the game on Saturday.
And of course, LeBron's still averaging 27-6 a game. They still got Kevin Love. Derrick Rose is on this team.
Yes.
He's getting 16.5 points a game. No, I'm reading that wrong. 13 points a game.
Yeah.
So he's their 3rd leading scorer.
Which is kind of the point why they acquired him in the offseason.
Right.
I mean, because they need that scoring from that. Because right now, especially with what you have the Cavaliers doing, which is basically running LeBron James at the point guard spot. Which, by the way, in that game he had a triple-double. He had 29 points, 10 rebounds, 13 assists. So that's what he's doing in games, and they lose. But you can also see if you're running LeBron James at the point and Kevin Love is your center, you're trying to do some weird things offensively. And then I think it kind of leaves you a little bit exposed on the defensive end, because if you're playing, Tristan Thompson, or if Dwayne Wade's coming off the bench, guys like that, it's a much weirder rotation than I think what they're used to. And it's going to take time for those pieces to gel eventually. But that's why we were talking about what the Pelicans did on this road trip was going to be big in terms of what they were going to come back to, and that game against the Cavaliers, which may be a little bit more competitive than what people thought.
Well, you mentioned Dwayne Wade. He's averaging 7 points a game, averaging 22.5 minutes per game, and I wonder when Isaiah Thomas will be back. That's what I'm curious about.
They said he might not be back until after the new year, January. I mean, it was a pretty gnarly injury, and that surgery he had to undertake after they lost to the Cavaliers in the Eastern Conference Finals last year. That's why it's been such a, the rigmarole with the Celtics and the Cavs, with the Celtics having to send a little bit more compensation for that injury to the Cavs because of it. Because of that injury, he still might not be back until later on, until at least maybe January. And then you're talking about a completely different team at that point, too.
Yeah, they're going to have to figure themselves out when he comes back.
Yeah.
Exactly. But, I'm sure it's not exactly what LeBron had in mind when I'm sure he signed off on saying, Kyrie Irving, get the hell out of town. See ya.
I'll tell you,
we're not friends anymore.
One of the surprise teams to me in the league is the Clippers.
Yes.
They're 4-0 right now, and they do not have, obviously, Chris Paul, who moved over to Houston offseason. I thought that would be the end of the Clippers.
Yeah.
And they're playing very well without him.
That shot from Blake Griffin last night for the three, he even said post game that wasn't even the play call. He was supposed to drive it to the hole. He just said they played the lane pretty well. He just decided to jack it up, see what happens. Made the game winning three, and they're 4-0.
All right, let's switch gears. Tulane Memphis talk with Todd Grappanini, voice of the Tulane Green Wave, coming up next here on Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. Dunc and Holder.
So they beat the Blazers at the Blazers?
Yes.
I didn't know that. Austin Rivers is starting.
Yes.
Oh, Austin Rivers.
Your forecast on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
This report brought to you by Take 5 Oil Change.
Happy Friday from
calling the graph.
meteorologist Shelby Latino. Temperatures will climb into the low 80s this afternoon with a mix of sun and clouds and a few showers around. We'll see that cloud cover continuing to increase toward the evening hours, and rain chances will increase as well. Plan for showers around and a few storms through the evening and overnight hours before a cold front moves through, and this one will be the strongest of the season. It will drop temperatures to only climb into the upper 50s for tomorrow afternoon. From the Fox 8 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist.
All right, we got him.
Cool.
Have a great day.
Take 5 Oil Change, the fastest oil change on the planet, serving Louisiana communities for over 30 years. Let Take 5 show you that getting an oil change will be the easiest thing on your to-do list. Take 5 Oil Change. They change your oil, not your schedule.
All you gotta do is take 5. I like big trucks and I cannot lie. Listen up, here's the reason why. If you want a big truck for a little bitty, Legacy is where you buy. 2017s are going fast. Double cab elevation edition, just $30,995. Or get 10 grand off Sierra All-Terrains. Plus 2018 crew cabs are discounted $7,000 off MSRP. At Legacy Buick GMC in Slidell. GMC, we are professional grade. I like big trucks and I cannot lie.
Is that a 747?
Only Taco Bell's $5 cravings.
Who's going to be your
deal has
lock
5
of the
your
week?
favorites in one box.
I don't know. I got to look.
Fly.
So you don't spend your lunch break deciding.
You act like I
for
come
lunch.
fly by the seat of his
700,000
pants.
pounds in the
Those
air,
things
and
I
no one questions it?
obviously
Freeing
do
your
no
mind
research
for so
on.
many other thoughts.
Like most things,
they're just plain.
when it comes to picks,
Get
you do no research.
Taco Bell $5 cravings box.
Pretty much,
Cheesy
yes.
Gordita Crunch,
I
Burrito
think there's
Supreme,
one I
Taco
need to look
Nachos,
at
and a
that
Baja Blast.
I felt
It's the
pretty
only
confident
ones that
about.
freeze your
I
mind
think the
and
Saints
your
might be the lock of the
cravings.
week.
At participating locations. Prices may vary. Tax extra.
Put a grand in your hand.
What's the spread
Win
for the
$1,000
Vikings-Browns
every
game?
hour.
Ugh.
Up to 16 times a day. Weekdays.
All right, 15 seconds.
5 a.m. When you hear the keyword, text it to 200-200. Listen all day.
There's
For
people
a chance
talking
to
about
put a
that
grand
Jenny
in your
Graham
hand on Sports
over and over.
1280,
Yeah,
New Orleans.
people are messaging us on Facebook.
It's crazy.
Your home for home team talk. Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Country Fried Friday here on Dunc and Holder, and perfect segue for country music guru Todd Grappanini joining us right here on the show. Todd, I know like Garth Brooks and Randy Travis, they rank way above people like you two in your music playbook. I'm totally right on this, right?
Actually, Larry, you're 100% wrong.
What?
What a surprise.
I am.
Yeah. I spent a year of my life in Monroe, Louisiana, my freshman year of college, playing baseball up there at UL Monroe, and which was then Northeast Louisiana University. And I heard more country music in about a 6-month span than I had heard in my entire lifetime, quintupled, and that was about my fill. So no, I like that song that Dave just played, little family tradition. I don't mind that one, but no, I can't listen to that stuff.
Poor Graf.
I didn't realize that you were at NLU for a year, Graf. I'm learning all kinds of things about you.
I'll give you another one, Jeff. The year I was there, the Indians, now the Warhawks, won the 1AA national championship in football with one Stan Humphries
Stan
at
the man.
quarterback. and we beat the Marshall Thundering Herd in Pocatello, Idaho, for the national championship, 43-42.
Yeah,
so how do you like that?
I remember that. That was Pat Collins, right? Was he the coach?
Exactly.
And,
yep, that was my freshman year of college.
Who was didn't they have like a really good kicker, like Teddy Garcia?
Teddy Garcia.
Thank you.
Jeff, we actually would go about an hour and a half before the game started just to watch Teddy Garcia warm up. He was unbelievable. And he actually got drafted by the New England Patriots and played a couple of years. But, yeah, Teddy Garcia, I mean, when you start going to games to watch the kicker warm up, that's how good you are. And we were pretty good that year.
Ty Graffagnini, voice of the Tulane Green Wave. Join us right here on Dunc and Holder. Of course, tonight, Memphis, another ranked opponent. You guys are playing at Memphis. And, Todd, you were warning me going into this game that weather could be a major factor in this game. Just kind of give us a little weather update, and how do you think the Green Wave are going to combat what possibly could be coming towards you guys?
Well, the front's coming, Larry. It's not here yet, but right now it's 60 degrees, which is basically the high for today. It's going to continually drop during the day. The sun's not coming out anymore. And at about 3 o'clock, the rain's going to start falling, and just looking at the forecast and watching television, it's going to linger. The rain's going to linger probably through the first quarter. So it's going to be chilly. So that's just something Tulane's going to have to combat. But personally, I think that favors Tulane. If we're going to see the game plan that we saw a week ago against USF, which I think Tulane, and you were there, Larry, I thought Tulane executed their game plan to perfection, which was playing keep away from the potent USF offense. But the problem was Tulane wasn't able to capitalize and get in the end zone and get points. Memphis is basically the same. They're going to put up a ton of points. They always do. But they do it a little differently than we saw USF. We saw Quentin Flowers last week just running wild. He threw the occasional pass. But Riley Ferguson's going to wing it all over the park tonight. And he's got really, really good receivers, including Anthony Miller. Those two guys are setting records as far as the last 2 years with receptions and yardage. So a wet ball might favor Tulane as far as what Memphis wants to do offensively. So we'll just have to wait and see.
Graf, when I look at the Memphis program and what they've kind of built there, it started with Justin Fuente and now with Norvell kind of picking up the torch, and he's a hot commodity in the coaching market.
Right.
Do you think, I know they're different institutions, but can that be a good model for Tulane to be that competitive where you're making the top 25 every now and then, you're going to bowls, you're kind of controlling recruiting in that part of your state? That just seems like a viable goal for Tulane, but I know they're different universities. I get that.
Right. Yeah, and it is. And look, they've got big brother in the state, too, in Tennessee. Now, Tennessee is down and have been the last couple of years. But, yeah, Memphis has to, go against that big orange team in Knoxville every year for what they want to do. Right now, I think Coach Norvell, who's one of the youngest coaches in the NC2A, is just 36 years old, guys. I mean, he was a coordinator at Arizona State the last 4 years before he got the Memphis job when Fuente went to Virginia Tech. He inherited, a stock cupboard, just like Charlie Strong did when Willie Taggart went from USF to Oregon. I mean, Norvell's got a senior quarterback who's playing at the top of his game. He's got senior wide receivers that have been in the program running basically the same offense for the last 4 years. So it's all good right now for Memphis. You got to realize, and you talked about the model, Jeff, I mean, they were down. Memphis was down for a long time before Justin Fuente came there. I mean, they hadn't gone to a bowl in over a decade. They were losing. The Liberty Bowl wasn't filled up at all. And now, I mean, look, I don't know what the weather's going to do tonight to the crowd, but if this would have been one of those nice fall weather nights here in Memphis, you could have expected 45,000 people. I mean, they are fully on board with what Memphis football is doing here. And, of course, it's the only game in town. They got the Grizz, which coincidentally played last night downtown at the FedEx Forum against Dallas. But, I mean, they love Memphis football. They love Memphis basketball. And right now they got a pretty darn good team to cheer for.
Todd Grappianini, the voice of the Tulane Green Wave, joining us right here on Dunc and Holder. Of course, you can listen to tonight's game, Tulane-Memphis, right here on their flagship station for all things Tulane football and men's basketball, Sports 1280. And that's a 7 o'clock kickoff. And you guys doing, what, 6 o'clock pregame like you do an hour before, like always?
Correct. Yep. We'll be on at 6, and you can sync us up on the television will be on CBS-SN. So give it a shot, sync it up.
Todd,
you pros know how to sync it up out there.
You know, I'm going to totally screw that up. So don't
like most things.
Don't consider. I mean, what is this, Clyde? What? Anywho.
Peanut gallery.
Anywho, what about Tulane's mindset coming off of last week's game? Look, it felt like to me, it's like if Tulane had one more possession left in them, they could have won that game. I mean, and it's I know moral victories, blah, people don't want to hear that. But look, Tulane was a decided underdog in that game, and look, they were within touchdown minus a PAT of South Florida, one of the better teams that we feel probably in the country. What is their mindset going away from that game and leading up to this another AP ranked opponent in Memphis?
I think it's pretty good, Larry. I mean, look, the last quarter and a half against USF I thought did wonders for this team, specifically offensively, where I think they proved to themselves that they can throw the football and have success doing it. The passing game is really what got Tulane back into the ball game. Now, of course, Sherman Beatty and Dontrell Hilliard had unbelievable touchdown runs during that comeback, but Jonathan Banks, despite him having his fingers jammed in the first series of the ball game, and you know that guy's been playing hurt a lot this year, and he gutted it out again, but he was able to throw the ball effectively. And what's even more important that we hadn't seen in the recent weeks was the wide receivers were making plays for him. Now I go back to the FIU game where Banks struggled big time. Sometimes when a quarterback is struggling, your wide receivers got to bail the QB out and make some plays for him. The wide receivers weren't making any plays for him against FIU. They made plays for him against USF. So hopefully that carries over. I will say this, just having watched Memphis, they came back last week. They were shut out for the first time in 65 games in the first half against Houston and wound up scoring 42 points in the second half, came back and won. But Memphis's defense, they're vulnerable. They've given up big plays all year long. I think Tulane can move the ball on Memphis. The question is going to be whether Tulane's defense is going to slow this Memphis offense down, because they are a juggernaut with Riley Ferguson at quarterback. I mean, they're throwing for 335 a game. They're putting up 40 points a game. Like I said, they didn't score in the first 30 minutes against Houston and scored 42 anyway. So you can't hold them down, but you just got to do enough, and that's where we go. That's where we go back to can Tulane keep the ball away from them like they did a week ago against USF.
Graf, I think I might have seen you the other night on the Crescent City Connection after Game 2. Was that you out there? I couldn't tell. Game 3.
A shadowy figure.
Yes.
Getting ready to take a swan dive. No, that was not me. Now, if you would have been walking around Uptown and you saw somebody on their roof getting ready to take a swan dive, that might have been me. No, Jeff.
They got a shot?
That was brutal, man. That was brutal.
Yeah.
And I blame Dave Roberts, who has been a fantastic skipper the last 2 years, but he outthought himself in Game 2. Again, hindsight's 20/20, but I would have let Rich Hill pitch another inning, and then you kind of piece it together. And putting Ross Stripling in a game situation when you're up by 2 in the 7th inning is flat, just ridiculous. Ross Stripling looked like a scared dog who was he had stuff rolling down his leg. If I don't want to be too graphic here, but he threw
being too graphic, that's not possible.
Nowhere near the strike zone, and that run.
It's 10:46.
and that kind of led to what. Now, you tell me that Kenley Jansen's going to give up a home run in the 9th inning, I would have said you were absolutely crazy. So look, the Astros earned it. Don't get me wrong, but it never should have come to that. It never should have been 3-2 going into the 9th inning. It should have been at least 3-1.
All right, Todd. Good luck tonight. I know the game will be on while you're doing Tulane Memphis. So
no, it won't be. No, it won't be. Not doing it. Not doing it.
This is why we love Dodgers fan Todd Graffinini. All right, 6 o'clock.
I'll be in Houston tomorrow.
There you go. Yeah, he's going to Game 4. 6 o'clock pregame, 7 o'clock kickoff. Tulane Memphis here on Sports 1280, your flagship station of all things Tulane's football. All right, Todd. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Todd.
See you when you get back.
Thanks, fellas.
All right, let's switch gears. Prep football with Jim Derry coming up next. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. Dunc and Holder.
He was so jacked. He was so ready to talk about it too. He had the bullet in the chamber. It was like, give it to me. Give it to me. Give it to me.
Dude, I'll just read. I didn't even text him after the loss because I was like, I was just gonna leave him be. He texted me at 9:59 yesterday. I'm done. I quit. Astros in 5. I said that was so bad that I left you alone. Seriously. He says I don't even want to go now. Like he doesn't want to go to Houston for Game 4. And I said, oh, stop. Dodgers starting pitching is superior. Like, stop.
You remember the guy from Tulane, the Ossetkowski, the Dylan Ossetkowski, the big 6'10" guy? He was good. He's at Texas. I didn't know he was at Texas.
I do remember that guy, yeah.
He's supposed to start.
Did you know 22 Americans die each day waiting for
good.
organ
It's too good
transplants,
for
most
Tulane.
of them for kidneys?
Like,
The good news is that MatchingDonors.com is helping to change that. MatchingDonors.com
Oh, we got Derry. I got to
501c3
read up on the
nonprofit
preps.
organization that
All right, crash
organ
course,
donors
30
to people in
seconds.
desperate need of kidneys and other transplants. And
Well, 1 minute.
Larry can't count.
That's all I need.
Well, 1 minute.
That's
all I
going
need.
to help save the lives of people
Dave
who
and
need
his
organ transplants.
clocks.
Visit matchingdonors.com or call 800-385-0422.
It's Halloween weekend, and iHeartRadio has a treat for you. Open the iHeartRadio app right now for a free preview of iHeartRadio All Access all weekend long. What is iHeartRadio All Access? It's everything. Search and play any song instantly. Unlimited skips, hand-curated playlists, or any move or activity, and create your own. This is one scary good Halloween treat.
The games.
Only this weekend.
Yeah, he's just
Open
doing
the
10
app,
now
the
instead of every
iHeartRadio
game.
All Access
That's beautiful.
Preview weekend.
Smart.
For us, it's beautiful.
Yeah, you should be like, thank you.
Join the TJ
I mean, he was doing
Martell
every
Foundation
game.
in the fight against leukemia, cancer, and AIDS. Your support helps.
I think he was doing every game, and I think he was still being called out by like most of these schools on Twitter.
Really?
And they're like using that bulletin board material.
Jim
Yeah, like
Martell
one coach he was talking
Tell
about last
me
week
more.
did.
This is Dunc and Holder on Sports 1280 New Orleans.
I mean, we've got.
Who is this, Larry?
We've got Clyde doing like the shake, or what is it? The
I mean,
wiggle?
Yeah, I would say it's like a shimmy, more or less.
Something like that. I don't know who this is.
Travis Tritt, man.
Yeah, I've never heard of him.
I love songs.
Shimmy, right?
A shimmy.
I don't know what he's doing over there.
I love
Kinda-
songs. I love
kinda
songs that
goofy.
spell at you.
Exactly. Something like that. Jim Derry, preps guru of NOLA.com, the Times Picayune Journal. happen.
In all seriousness, Rummel is facing all sorts of problems. They have so many issues with depth. We said it going into the season. If they lost any key players, they were going to really be in trouble. They lost. They've been banged up across the offensive front. They lost wide receiver Coy Moore, I think, for the season. They are just struggling. If they can't protect for Chandler Fields, they are just they're not going to have a lot of chances to win. And look, they have to play Curtis tonight. They have to play St. Augustine next week, who's going to be fighting mad and who has a really good defensive front. So I mean, Rummel could literally be staring at 3 losses to end the regular season and limp into the playoffs and probably have to go on the road. So, you know, a team that I thought was going to be the second best team in the state, and I had them ranked number 2 in Class 5A for the first 5 weeks of the season. Things have kind of turned around, and Jay warned me about their depth, and he was right, and they've had some injuries, and it's really hurt them.
Jim, we only got a couple more minutes. What are maybe 1 or 2 more games we should keep an eye on this weekend?
Well, you got the list in front of you. You tell me which one stands out at you.
Why don't I just tease your column and then they can go read it and you can come on, man.
Jim, that's the whole thing. We're supposed to tease them to the column, right? No. Tonight there are there are a lot of games tonight that ought to be. There's going to be a lot of blowouts tonight. First of all, but second of all, there are a couple games I'm interested in. I'm interested to see Salmon play Franklinton tonight. On the North Shore. Salmon is 7-1, and a lot of people saying they're doing it with smoke and mirrors. I picked the Spartans to win the district, and they're trying to set up a showdown with Lakeshore next week. Lakeshore is at 8-0. They're going to beat Pearl River tonight, and if both of those teams win and set up the big showdown, it'll be 9-0 Lakeshore against 8-1 Salmon for the District 8-4A championship, and both of those teams are going to be in the top 10 in power rating in Class 4A. So I'm really interested to see Salmon. They've already played Franklinton once this year in a non-district game, and they won by 1 point. So now they have to go to Franklinton. Franklinton's lost, I believe, 5 in a row, and Salmon's won 6 in a row. So the Spartans are going to get a true test tonight to see what happens there. And then St. Paul's also staying on the North Shore. St. Paul's plays Mandeville, and Mandeville has played a lot better after that really tough start with the interim coach and Josh Gould taking over for NOLA.com. It's been a rough stretch for them. St. Paul's maybe not playing as well as we're used to seeing St. Paul's play. So, again, Mandeville's fighting. They have St. Paul's this week. They have Covington, who's undefeated, next week. Mandeville is fighting to get in the playoffs, and they haven't missed the playoffs in, I believe, 13 seasons. So we'll have to see if the Skippers can fight their way back in. They're sitting around 37 right now.
2 minutes.
So they really need to win both of these last games. They win both of them, they'll get in. But it's a really tall task, and it's kind of hard not to root for them after all that's happened so far. So we'll see what the Skippers can do tonight.
Hey Jim, Jesuits at Destrehan. I noted in your recap that John Emery is out. What's up with John Emery?
John Emery's got a hand injury. He actually had, from what I understand, he had surgery on his hand a couple weeks ago, and he's almost certainly out for the rest of the regular season. They're trying to figure out if he'll be back for the playoffs or not. So Destrehan, without him, he's clearly, he's one of the top probably 3 or 4 running backs in the state, and that's as a junior. So I'll tell you, I would not be surprised at all if Jesuit found a way to win this game, because Jesuit's been playing a lot better. Destrehan's been shaky. Some games they've been great, some games
1 minute.
they've been awful. So it just kind of depends on what Wildcats team Jesuit faces tonight. But it would not shock me at all if Jesuit went in there and pulled the upset. And look, Destrehan's hanging around the area of where they could end up not getting a home game in the playoffs, and that's almost unheard of. So we'll have to see what happens there.
All right, that's Jim Derry, preps guru for NOLA.com, the Times-Picayune. He'll be at McDonough 35 Warren Easton on our Regis Radiator NOLA.com prep game of the week. You can listen to it through NOLA.com, our prep sports page, and Facebook Live, and it'll be great.
You can also watch it.
Absolutely, and watch it via Clyde. So, hey, Jim, appreciate it. Talk to you next week.
Absolutely, guys. Talk to you later.
All right, that's Jim Derry. Hour number 1 is up. Hour number 2 is on the way. Saints Bears talk will be coming up heavy in the next hour. So come on back. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app with Dunc and Holder.
Save you no time, hoss. This this big
On faith and no
time, Lord ain't going any faster.
You could be your karaoke song.
On the tractor, 'cause I'm the son of a third-generation farmer.
There's a little girl. You ever heard that song? John Anderson swinging?
The plague is spreading across Madagascar. More than 120 people dead since August, nearly 1,200 infected. Nearby Eastern African nations are on high alert because the disease
You want to see George
can be
Strait?
transmitted before symptoms, including fever.
It's the only one I know
and
yet
swollen
so
lymph
far.
nodes.
Did you see Angela's
Nearly
email?
30 million Americans are living with type 2 diabetes,
Is
including
it-
an
is
Emmy
that
Award-winning
Robert Bruno,
actress who's trying to
attorney?
educate
You know who
others.
he is? I know him.
Law and Order star Essa
he was like on the Superdome.
says she was stunned when she was
No,
diagnosed
not
with
just
type
come
2
on.
diabetes.
Now, if he wanted to be the
even though it
title,
runs
he wants
in
to be
her
the title
family.
sponsor.
My dad lost his life because of
We'll bring it on.
complications. My grandmother lost her sight. And uncles had lower extremity amputations.
Now Murkison is working on a
in our
public awareness
neighborhood.
campaign called
Her
America's
name is
Diabetes
Charlotte
Challenge.
Johnson,
She
and
wants
WODT-WNOE-FM HD2 New Orleans. Listen on the free
Whenever I
iHeart
go
Radio
see
app.
her,
Search
I was on the
Sports
telephone,
1280.
going over to her house. This was going on. Brother was on the
Fox Sports trending now.
The World Series returns to the field tonight with Game 3. Los Angeles and Houston are tied at
You ever
one
go
game
to a karaoke
apiece.
song?
Now the Astros host the Dodgers for 3 games this weekend, and for Houston manager A.J. Hinch, that is an advantage.
It is quite an environment. When we can play under the roof, our fans get going. It was one of the loudest stadiums the last series. I expect it to be the same. But it is a great environment at home, and I think that's what makes people feel good.
Lance
That's how
McCullers
the,
Jr. gets the start
last
tonight
year
for
we were in
Houston against the
Greenbrier.
Dodgers. Yu Darvish. First pitch is
Last
set
night
for 8
we all
o'clock,
went
and
out.
it will be
Went to the
on
bar,
Fox.
like
The
close
NFL
to the-
opened Week 8
close
Thursday
to the
night with a
hotel, or close to our
40-0
hotel,
Baltimore
so-
shutout of Miami.
Airbnb
The
house,
NFL
right.
Network reporting
We were all in there. I
Washington
can't remember
quarterback
players there,
Josh
not probably not 'cause
Dorman
we
will return to the field this
switched
week
out. We
against
switched
Dallas.
out usually.
I'm Ralph Irvin.
But Amos got up there, and Amos was trying to impress these girls.
Oh, I wasn't
They were there. So he gets up there. I think it was like Nelly or something like that. I can't remember the song. But it was the place was packed. He finally gets up there. Amos Morales. So he gets up there, and Nelly's song's going, you know, and all of a sudden, midway through, like the first verse, he goes, wait, cut it off. It's in the version I know. It's not the version I know. Oh, all the music went down. People were like booing. I was like, you got no shot now. None.
Yeah.
You have your chance.
Is slowing
Here.
down.
You have to ride that out, man. You
Sales
can just
gets
quit in the middle of the
It's the whole
song.
point. It's the whole point of karaoke.
Home sales just to a
I can imagine it too.
It
It's
was
like,
so awkward, man.
Revised
He
down.
already had a bad
Association says the
reputation in the
situation
place
isn't likely
because
to improve
they-
until
the
more homes
drinks he
come on the
ordered,
market,
they would
but
be
owners
like,
aren't likely to
I don't
put
know,
their
these
house on the market as long as
other mixed drinks, and they're like
United Parcel Service
Yeah.
plans to
Like,
increase
West Virginia.
rates on some services by an average of 4.9% starting December 24th, the week before
forever.
Federal Express
We
Day.
go to that
UPS
restaurant
also
all the
plans to
time because it was
increase
like
food season
Right down the road, yeah.
most residential shipments just on
Always
top
up.
of the 2018 holiday season. Shipping companies say they need to raise rates to cover the increasing costs of delivering all this
I'm
stuff
gonna rag him so
online.
hard on Sunday. It's
The
gonna
holiday
be so
shopping
bad.
This isn't the
season is
version I
around the
know.
corner,
Cut it
and
off.
retailers both on
Yeah,
and
that's a
offline
good
are
move.
joining forces. Walmart.com and Amazon are competing to sign up traditional brick and mortar stores to sell on their sites.
This month, 25% of traditional malls are expected to close by 2022. This year, more than 5,000 stores have already shut their doors. This is a fight for survival.
Right now, retailers need to evolve. Consumers' behaviors, their attitudes towards shopping, and the technology they bring into the store
I didn't want to
fundamentally
go.
has changed.
I'll be there
how
too.
I'm just
their
worn out, man.
expectation
The only
is
good
of
thing that
retail
happened,
experience.
the good thing that happened
Retail
was
Hunger
they
Games
pushed the
brand
Gleason store back
united
the
to
next
bag
weekend.
your business.
NBC's Jill Lynn Kent reporting.
And it's actually gonna be
Apple
better
might have
because
seen
we're
this
gonna play
coming,
it
but
on
sales of its new
A1
iPhone 8 models are
instead
weak.
of
Analysts say it's
Sports
probably
Front.
because
So
many
it'll be
people
better for
wanted
the
to upgrade or
Gleasons, yeah,
waiting
and
for the
then
10,
it
which
gives
is
me
due to
time
ship
to
November
do it.
3rd,
Write it
even if it is
the
more
way I
expensive
wanna
than
write
the
it.
8.
And we get to
It
get a
only
photo
offers
of him
incremental
with the
upgrades from the 7s,
guy
and
at the
sales of
Dome
the
on
8 are the
Sunday,
slowest
which
for
we
any
have,
new
so
iPhone model.
all the way
a month
around, it's
after
gonna be better for
launch.
everybody,
And it looks like Janet
for
Yellen
me,
will
it'll
not
give
be
me
the
some
Fed chair
sanity,
after her
because
term
that
ends in February.
I
Both
was
the Washington
working there.
Post and Politico are reporting separately that President Trump is likely to nominate either current Fed Governor Jerome Powell
Yeah, well, Claire's on
or
board with
Stanford
that. That's one
economist
good
John
thing about her.
Tierney.
She's like
Consumer and Business News.
she's
Joe
like,
McConnell, NBC News Radio.
Mexico, look at a house down here in Lakeview.
It's the second annual Wine on the River, presented by Southern Glazers, WGNO TV ABC, and NOLA.38 CW. Join us Saturday, November 11th at Audubon Aquarium Plaza. Tickets on sale now for only $49. So get your tickets today. Enjoy wines from around the world, great food, and live entertainment. Buy your tickets today online at wineontherivernola.com. Proceeds benefit the Louisiana Hospitality Foundation.
Got little ceiling fans. It's been on the market for 63 days. That's always a good Saturday.
A concert to benefit victims of the deadly Northern California fire is coming to San Francisco. The November 9th concert at AT&T Park will feature big and Dave Matthews. Metallica calls the Bay Area home and is joined with Matthews to form the Band Together Bay Area Coalition. Former child star Corey Feldman believing someone is out to get him after making public claims of a Hollywood pedophile ring.
I had a near-death experience last night.
Because that doesn't stop, dude.
If Jeff gets this house,
Feldman seeking
you'll
funds
know where
for
he
a
lives.
documentary about his claims of
Send him all the hate mail.
That thing I was speaking at yesterday, this guy
people
came up
involved,
and goes,
including one linked to a major
he goes,
studio.
yeah, I really enjoy your work and everything. He goes, you took a lot of grief on that bounty stuff, didn't you? And next thing I know, we were talking bounty for like
on
15
Twitter over
minutes.
what
Guy
some are
was
calling a
a
sexist
lawyer.
Katy Perry tweet. And a happy birthday message
listens
to
to the
Perry,
show.
the comedian talk show host wrote, "Time to bring out the big balloons," over an image of her gawking mouth wide at Perry's chest. Because of the recent Harvey Weinstein sex scandal,
made a mistake,
many
and one
fans
of the
quick
cool
to point
things
out the
that they
tweet
had
would
the-
never stand had a man posted it. Bono talking about a medical issue that helped him write the band's upcoming Songs of Experience album.
30 seconds, and we might or might not have Carl Nix at
we don't know. He's supposed to call us.
So I'm going to put that at
December
20%.
That's entertainment.
All right. That's pretty good.
I'm saying 17%.
5 to 1.
Anyway,
Grand in your hand? Sounds good, doesn't it?
Oh, wow.
The next keyword is minutes away on Sports 1280 New Orleans.
Screwed up.
Dunc and Holder, hour number 2. One more hour this week. Today, October 27th. And Jeff, we know, coming up Sunday, Saints Bears, I would assume the Dome will be rocking after 4 straight wins. And look, you can talk this game all you want. You kind of understand what you're going to be seeing from the Bears. Probably not a lot of Mitch Trubisky throwing the football, given he only threw it 7 times last week. And you look at their run game with Jordan Howard and Tariq Cohen, and they will certainly be relied upon in that. And with the Saints, Michael Thomas, good news on the injury front. He returned to practice yesterday. So all of my panic, chaos, screaming, it's over. Now it's not over. It's all good.
How's the long snapper doing?
I don't know his name, so that's good. Zach Wood. I know it's Zach
We
Wood.
spent an entire show on the long snapper crisis.
Not the whole show. Maybe the first 30 minutes.
Yeah,
maybe.
of a 2-hour show, dude.
The Bears run,
very important.
You know, the Bears pass less than like Tulane does. It's crazy. They're like
Yes.
John Curtis of the NFL.
Yes.
They just run the ball.
Just run the option?
They just, I don't know. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know how you win in the NFL. I guess you got to have really good defense.
Yep.
Well, look, do they have a good defense? I would say yes. Do I think that they're one of the better defenses in the NFL? I don't know. I mean, look, they won 17-3 last week against the Panthers, and the Panthers are imploding. And I mean, one of those interceptions bounces up in the air, and he picks it up, but like that's it's something that for the Bears team to win, they've got to win those type of games. They're not going to. If you get them in, we had Brad Biggs on from the Chicago Tribune earlier this week. If the Saints get ahead of the Bears, you're going to force Mitch Trubisky to throw the football, and I think that's extreme advantage Saints given the way they've been pressuring the quarterback and given the way their secondary's been playing.
You know, you mentioned the Panthers. I want to go off track here, but you know the Saints have won 4 in a row. We know that. One of the longest, I think the second longest winning streak in the NFL. But coinciding with that is the virtual implosion of the entire NFC South division. The Falcons have lost 2 or 3 in a row. The Panthers, I think, have lost 2 or 3 in a row, and the Bucs have lost. I think everybody's lost 2 or 3 games in a row, while the Saints have surged with 4 straight victories. So they really have a chance here to put some distance between themselves and everyone else in the division.
Which, speaking of, Panthers at Bucs this weekend, and the Falcons are hosting the Jets.
Right. So somebody's going to lose in one of those games. I would think if the Falcons lose they're at home against the Jets.
No, the Falcons are on the road at the Jets.
I thought they were at the Jets.
That's a losable game the way the Falcons have been playing, and the Jets have somehow managed to scratch out wins. That's as amazing as ever. That the Jets are 4-3. I mean, that's to me amazing.
And we haven't talked about the Cam Newton situation.
3-4. The Jets are 3-4.
We haven't talked about Cam Newton, but this guy, I don't know. I have a lot of questions about him. I mean, he was making some, I think, strong headway as a leader, and he just seems to be stepping back. I don't want to overreact to an incident with the media, because I think what matters when you're in that position of being a leader is how you react and how you deal with your teammates and your coaching staff, not the media. But it's just not reflective of a guy that's going to be the face of the franchise. We would never see Drew Brees do something like that, ever. And this isn't his first time that he's had that transgression. So you're going to
first time this season.
Are you going to defend him?
It's not the first time in like 3 weeks.
No, absolutely not. No, I think the confusing thing about Cam Newton is I think the one thing that's kind of dogged him his entire career has been maturity. It hasn't so much been his acumen. He has shown the ability to basically will a team to the Super Bowl, but then he's also shown the inability to be able to be counted on as an adult or as a face of a franchise when it matters most. I mean, the question wasn't that completely innocuous, but obviously he skipped media interviews last week, and then the week before that was the entirety of that's a funny question to me. There are times where I think you can absolutely question his acumen in regards to being a leader and being the face of a franchise quarterback. I don't think that there's any qualms about that.
He hasn't been the same guy since losing the Super Bowl. No. I mean, he was the MVP of the league and really single-handedly almost drove that team, like you said, to the Super Bowl. Had a bad performance in the Super Bowl. We all know how he reacted after that. And then since then, I mean, I know he was hurt last year, but he had a terrible year last year. And he's been really up and down this year. He's had a couple of great games, but for the most part, he's had some stinkers too, and they're a team in disarray, I think, right now.
And he was part of the reason why the Bears picked up that win and probably feel pretty good about themselves, even though they know the Saints are rolling. They probably still feel pretty good about themselves coming into this game on Sunday. But Jeff, I'm assuming we might as well just give our picks away. I mean, your pick's public, my pick's public already. Like, I'm picking the Saints 27-16 in this game. I don't see this as being a team that can completely threaten the Saints. Do I think that they can improve their run defense? Yes, and they have to? Yes, because actually that was in my first and 10 column. That's the discouraging stat of the week. The Saints are 30th in the league in rushing yards given up per play, and obviously that came to light last week, and it kind of exemplified the problem there, but they did fix it. Now, we know the Bears are going to come in and try to pound the football with the 2 running backs I mentioned earlier with Howard and Cohen, but you look at the way that the Saints feel as far as after the first quarter with the Packers. They were able to slow down Aaron Jones. They were able to slow down Brett Hundley to a degree. And so, and then if you force them into a passing situation, the Saints have, like I said, they've got to really like their chances. So it's imperative. I'm talking a lot about defense, but it's imperative for the Saints offense to really get this game going, get the crowd into it because they want to get into it because they're feeling good. And if the Saints get ahead by 10, I might be even a little cautious in my score because they might win by 20 if they can really get this thing going on offense.
Yeah, if they get a lead, that's the worst thing that could happen to the Bears, the way they play conservatively on offense. They don't want to be in catch-up mode. And look, the Bears, I had this stat in my picks column this week. They have not won against the Saints in the Super Bowl since 1991. Now, they haven't played a ton of games. I think 4 or 5 in a row they've lost. But last time they won there, Bobby Hebert was quarterbacking for the Saints. Jim Harbaugh was the Bears quarterback. And Tom Waddle, remember him? I think he's a broadcaster now in Chicago. A lot of broadcasters now.
Yeah.
With Bobby. Morton Anderson was on that team, but it's been a long time. They're not like a good dome team. They don't play well. They're built for like that kind of frozen tundra, windy city,
stodgy.
I just don't see them. And look, they've had some bad luck with the receiving position. I think who was the number 1 pick? Kevin White, right?
Second year essentially that he's missed.
Yeah, he's been a complete washout just because of injuries.
Alshon Jeffrey's gone. Look, this week they had to trade for Dontrell Inman, who probably comes in and is their best receiver right now, and that's not good for Mitch Trubisky. And like I said, when we talked with Brad Biggs earlier in the week, do they feel like Trubisky, if given a chance later on down the line, he can throw the football? Yes, but they certainly lack the weapons. And the way that Marshawn Lattimore has been playing, the way that Ken Crawley's been playing, heck, the way that Kenny Vaccaro has been playing, as he's been, again, that third corner, that nickel corner, because they've kind of phased P.J. Williams out, and they cut Sterling Moore, so that's what they're going to roll with until possibly when Delvin Breaux gets back on the field. But they've got to feel really good about that matchup. They can leave those guys on islands, blitz Trubisky. Anytime he throws, they probably feel like they can blitz him, and they'll feel good about it.
Yeah, and I tell you, the rookie that's starting for them at safety, Eddie Jackson, had a huge game last week, right? 2 75-yard returns for touchdowns.
It was like a pick 6 and then a fumble recovery for 6.
Out of Alabama. He's written about extensively in Phil Savage's book on Nick Saban about a guy that I think came in and he was a top cornerback prospect, and guy had a really bad injury, and they moved him to safety, and he was not happy about it. It's a good lesson for players out there that when sometimes you get moved and your initial reaction is, no, I don't want to move. They moved him to safety, ended up being an All-American, was the captain of the defense, and now is having a great NFL career, and but was completely against it at first, almost transferred because of it. He was so unhappy, and it worked out for him.
Absolutely, and that's one player that you can't afford to let him beat you, but look, I think the Saints, their offense is so diverse. It was funny coming up on the elevator to the office this morning, someone's already got their 41 Kamara jersey, and Alvin Kamara, you pair him with Mark Ingram, and that's a combination that, and Drew Brees was even asked about this earlier in the week. He admitted that those two together makes the offense so diverse because you don't know what's coming at you. They can run the football either way. They can use both of them in the pass game. They could put both players in on offense together, and they can be unpredictable, and I think you're going to even see more of that going forward.
That's a great point, and I didn't really think about that, but it makes perfect sense because in the past, when they were doing this backfield back committee, you kind of knew what was going on. When they bring in Travaris Cadet, you kind of knew what he was going to do. When Ingram was in there, he was a little more versatile, but now you really have no idea. And I haven't seen much of this. Have you all noticed this? Have they played both those guys together in the lineup much?
I've seen it a couple times.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
okay.
Usually they may start off in the backfield together, but they bring Kamara out and it goes into motion, and that's how you would do it. Or you could actually do it vice versa. You could, if you wanted to do Ingram, do it that way. You could. I think it's...
That'd really make you think, too. Like, if you
exactly.
see Mark Ingram, you see Drew Brees step his foot back, and then you see Mark Ingram come and, run around the left side, right side, you're like, oh, crap, what are they going to do?
You know who's a backup defensive tackle on this team? John Jenkins, former Saint.
That's how far he has fallen. I guess Ryan Pace wants to take a risk on him.
Flyer.
Like he did on Akeem Hicks, and that one's paid off. So actually, when we get back on the show, let's hear from Cam Jordan, get his thoughts on his good buddy Akeem Hicks, on trying to learn Mitch Trubisky's tendencies because he only throws the football 5 times a game, and not being too over ecstatic with the 4-2 start to kind of keep a level head. So we'll get Cam Jordan's thoughts on that coming up next. Sports 1280.
Hey, Jeffrey, this song is going out to your sister, man.
Great. Happy birthday, fam.
Did she call and make a request?
Yes, she did.
That's awesome.
Did. It's her birthday. I got to hook her up.
Awesome. Thanks, Dave.
She could make a request any day. Hey, I'm way more of a fan of Pam than Jeff. There's no doubt about that.
You should be, as you should be.
Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. We're Dunc and Holder.
Keep on going, don't slow down. If they're scared, don't show it. You might get out.
Gotcha.
For the devil even knows you're there.
I can tell it's Friday. I'm ready to get away from this.
Your shot at $1,000
No, absolutely not.
To 200. You'll get a text confirming entry.
If it wouldn't have hit that cord, it would have gone through.
I would have made it through that cord.
To 200.
Oh,
Inbound to Frazier, 1.3.
Now I'm like driven to get it over.
Solo alley-oop down low, Blake Hall layup. Good.
The excitement.
Floats it up. Good. At the buzzer, it
Oh,
counts.
see,
Wide open three.
Yeah, like you gotta like.
Basketball returns on
See, that's
Friday,
what I'm talking
November
about.
10th
Oh, yes!
on the Tulane
That shovel pass?
IMG
Yeah.
Sports
Real
Network.
That's how you do that.
Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Uber
like
is
tear
adding
this
a
place down.
multi-stop
Yeah, we
feature,
gotta
allowing you
make
to
this
add
like
in
Dan
3
Patrick.
stops into your journey.
Yeah, and like yeah, I'm gonna say then I can move the camera just so that we can like
change the
off
destination in the
color
middle of the
stuff,
trip,
talk about
meet
things, and then
friends at
throw
one
balls.
place to catch the same ride, or even order another ride after getting
build a
dropped
bowling
off at
alley
your
here.
first stop. Riders can split the fare of the trips. This is the latest in a bunch of recent Uber updates that aim to improve customer and drivers' experiences. Twitter is muting a couple of Russian news sites. Social Network says that it will stop taking advertising from all accounts owned by Russia Today and Sputnik. A recent Russian investigation found
bet I
that the two
know why,
media firms
because
are the
he was,
only ones that tried to interfere with the presidential election. Russia
one.
Today and Sputnik can have accounts, they just can't
him
buy
and
ads.
Mary Hart were,
Instagram
like,
is adding
right
an
behind
entertaining new
home
super
plate.
zoom feature. Users on
that right?
iOS and
Yeah.
Android can create
Like
a
first row
3-second
at
chipmunk-style
Dodger
zoom
Stadium
with a single
for
tap,
the World
and
Series.
also add
It might have been
dramatic
a game,
music
too.
to heighten the effect. Tech Report, Larry Olson, NBC News Radio.
If you need a payday loan fast, try LendUp.com. Apply in minutes on your phone or computer. Your account fast. LendUp.com, the better payday loan. LendUp.
30 seconds.
In your state, LendUp is a licensed credit services organization, not a direct lender. In Ohio and Texas.
What if hiring could be easier, with more qualified candidates and faster results? What if hiring could be smarter? Thanks to
My kids know
ZipRecruiter,
that
it
sound.
can be. With one click, post your job to over 100 top job
They'll
boards.
see something
Then,
go wrong and
smart
they'll come
technology
up.
notifies the
Even my
most
2-year-old,
qualified
he'll
candidates
come
to
up.
apply. No wonder 80% of employers who post on ZipRecruiter
10 seconds.
through the site in just one day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
Try ZipRecruiter free at ZipRecruiter.com/expand. That's ZipRecruiter.com/expand.
They're so hell-bent on giving, walking a wire, convinced it's not living if you stand outside the fire.
This is Dunc and Holder on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Country Fried Friday on a Duncan Holder. Something I've embraced along the way. Kicking and screaming, I didn't want it. Now I'm gonna be beating the window for Bayou Country Superfest. Is that what it's called? Yes. I've got to learn the concerts. I'm going to be beating for tickets. Come on.
That used to be in Baton Rouge, right?
Yes.
Moved it to New Orleans?
Yes. It used to be in Tiger Stadium.
What was the point of that?
Well, they are doing renovations to Tiger Stadium over the course of the next 2-3 years, renovating bathrooms, taking out the old dormitories that are also in Tiger Stadium. They're renovating that to make wider concourses. They're going to update and renovate the concession stands and a lot of other things, along with... No, they're not doing this anymore. They were going to put the nutrition center there. They were going to put that in Tiger Stadium, but then they since scrapped that idea, and now the nutrition center / cafeteria for student athletes will now be at the football
A
operations
little
center.
more of an answer than I expected.
Yeah,
What do you expect? Clyde comes with the heat, whether it's informative or just bizarre.
And then my rap voice comes out being like, hey, don't say that. You get smacked in your face.
Next thing I know, he's going to bust out like the blueprints for the Tiger Stadium
My
renovation.
rap voice. I mean, Clyde's versatile.
That's what I'm trying to be in my life, guys. That's why I'm here.
I love how he chimes in and then backs away from the mic. Like it's like a little...
It's like, I gotcha.
Yeah, take that with you. So this is a big weekend in New Orleans.
Yes.
We got Voodoo Fest
Yes,
this weekend, and then
Foo
I think
Fighters.
there's seafood festivals this weekend as
That's
well.
true.
So
They're building it right outside of our building. And how about the Saints give the Bears some free voodoo tickets? Maybe show them where the seafood is.
For the Cavs, too?
You think LeBron
The Cavs, too,
will
yes.
venture out and have some seafood on Saturday?
Yeah, someone's going to find him, and then we should just do on Twitter a search for LeBron and see who starts snapping pics of him at different places around downtown specifically. Because I
That's the
think if
thing.
they stay downtown, someone's going to see him.
He could not go anywhere. I mean, he's such a big guy. He stands out in a crowd. I mean, that's the thing. When you're 6'8", LeBron James, one of the most famous athletes in the world, I bet he very rarely can venture out in public.
Well, it's just like Drew Brees. He can't go anywhere around here. And nationally, I'm sure if someone sees him, they'll know him.
But Drew could wear like a baseball cap and kind of go unrecognized. I think he's only 6 foot, so he doesn't stand out just by his sheer size.
No, but his face is literally plastered across nearly everything in the city, whether it's Jimmy John's, walk-ons, Rouse's.
I think if Drew,
not Rouse's.
If Drew Brees were walking down the street in downtown Des Moines, Iowa, with a baseball cap on, I don't think a lot of people would recognize him.
How about West Lafayette, Indiana?
Well, of course, and here, of course, it'd be interesting to do that for a day. Remember when he was on 60 Minutes, and they walked down Bourbon Street with him? And had
I do remember that. Well, I remember there was a 60 Minutes. I think they've done it twice with him, because I was working with CBS Sports at the time, right after the Super Bowl, and I wrote a column off of that, and it was based off of how he was celebrating, and he was kind of like a man of the people. He went to Lucy's and taught him to cheer, his little chant.
That was a great video.
Yeah, so we had that was like the lead to my column.
Speaking of, Larry, that's something we need to get to the bottom of. What is the new pregame chant? Remember, every year he does a new cadence from some military.
Do we record it anymore?
We
go out and get video, yes.
So we should be able to catch it.
I just don't know what he says.
Well, it's been different as a social media person that sees these videos. It's been different. We haven't gotten in the last couple of weeks. I'm hoping that we'll be able to get another one this week. But it's been interesting. It's actually been more very rah-rah as opposed to like his normal from what we've seen in the last few years. It's been kind of different.
It's not a military cadence kind of thing?
No, it hasn't seemed like it, no. No, it's been a little bit different than years past, which is fine too.
It's got to be kind of running out of ideas. I mean, he's been doing it now for 12 years. And one of my memories early on of this Drew Brees tenure, and I know you guys will probably remember this, the first year in 2006, Reggie Bush was leading that.
Yep.
And somewhere along the way, he got usurped, and Drew took it over, and I would love to know how that went down.
I could tell you how it went down. Reggie, you're not this superstar player. Drew Brees is going to lead us to the promised land. Drew probably said, Reggie,
nah, bruh.
Take a seat.
I would like to know how that went down. That's not an easy thing to all of a sudden say, you're no longer the leader of this team, I am.
It's true.
And it was, I mean, clearly it
that offseason, look, Reggie Bush was this big attraction. Drew Brees was the mystery, and we had no idea how well he'd play, and we expected Reggie Bush to be Gale Sayers, and obviously not.
We were kind of wrong.
Yeah,
not completely wrong, but we were kind of wrong.
Early on, I know we have a very small body of work here. I like Alvin Kamara better than Reggie Bush. All around, I think he's a better runner between the tackles.
He's certainly a better, more natural running back, hitting the hole, waiting for a play to develop. He's not dancing. He's not doing the two-step, not waltzing. You know, he'll run 50 yards to the sideways and get -3. Like Alvin Kamara doesn't do that.
Reggie had a bunch of spectacular plays, but he also had a lot of bad plays. A lot of negative plays. He'd fumble. Remember early on he was a fumbler.
Yes, he was.
And then he had a lot of negative plays which would get the offense in bad down and distance. We don't see a lot of that out of Kamara right now.
No, we don't. And look, that's a big key to why the Saints are 4-2. There's no doubt about it. And also, of course, a big key, Cam Jordan. To me, I still think even a week after I wrote my grand proclamation that he's the best overall defensive end in the NFL. I should say best overall 4-3 defensive end, because if you got to look at Calais Campbell right now in Jacksonville. He's a 3-4 defensive end, and he's been incredible for the Jaguars.
What a pickup he was for them.
I was beating the drum that the Saints should have signed him. But,
yeah, that would have been a good pickup, because he's a good leader too.
Absolutely.
He would have fit in this locker room really well.
No doubt.
But the Jacksonville defense is for real. I mean, they're legit. They got a bunch of players on that team.
Absolutely. But but going back, Saints, look, they're more than Cam Jordan now on defense. And why don't we hear what Cam Jordan had to say? He was kind of taken aback by the question. Fletcher Mackel asked the question, basically saying, it used to be a bad Saints defense, and you were a good player on it. And Cam was like, man, that's kind of rough. So let's hear what Cam Jordan had to say on having more than one good player on defense for once.
I know in years past, a lot of people would say Cam Jordan's a great player on a bad defense. No offense to anybody else. I know. But
we had some players.
I know.
Through
But
here.
how nice is it now?
They just leave and get better somehow.
Yeah. How nice is it now that everybody's talking about everybody on this defense?
You know, when it comes to this year, again, we're only 6 games in. We're at 4-2. When you say, the defense, you talk about, Kenny Vaccaro having 3 picks so far this year. When you talk about everybody who's came in, we had a whole wash of linebackers, excluding Craig Robertson being the only one left from last year. When you talk about, the defensive line, you got a whole bunch of first years going to second year. They've clearly shown growth. Marshawn is clearly in his first 6 games. I mean, I don't know what he's going to do with the next 12 or next 10, but his first 6 games, he's clearly growing every game. He's getting better, which you can't do anything but thank God for. When you talk about, this defense as a whole, we'll see where we're at 10 games from now. Then I'll have a whole bunch of excerpts for you.
And one of those players that left and got better was his good buddy Akeem Hicks. I asked Cam Jordan a couple questions on his friend. Let's hear what he had to say about thriving Bears defensive star Akeem Hicks.
How happy for you for Akeem, his success that he's doing?
Yeah, Big Dog is eating.
Yeah.
We knew he had that potential in him. I mean, one year he killed it. I think it was the year I had 12 and a half, and Junior had 12, and he had like a 5 or 6 piece, and he's already at 6 now. Akeem's having a monster year already. When you talk about how big he is, how well he can move, his ceiling is so high, and he's clearly capturing that. I talk to him probably once a week. Have not talked to him at all this week. We told him we're not friends for the week, so we'll resume our friendship after this.
Yeah. Why do you think it didn't work here with Akeem?
When you talk about Akeem's evolution to being every down lineman, that's something that you'd have to ask him. I don't know how to get into that because clearly I think the world of him being at a 3 technique or what is he been getting his sacks at his nose. He's been monstering centers out for the last 6 games, 7 games for them, 6 games for us. And we, like I said, turn on his film, and it's apparent that he was getting after. We watched some Green Bay. We watched some a couple different games. Ravens, I like to say. But that's just turning on the film, watching him go, and just being proud of him as a friend.
You can find a little more details of what happened with Akeem Hicks in my column, my First and 10 column. That's up at NOLA.com. But let's do 2 more sound bites, and then we will take a break. And don't forget, in about 15 minutes, we will have Saints Hall of Fame guard Carl Nix is going to join the show. But let's hear from Cam Jordan on Mitch Trubisky and just trying to figure this guy out. Only threw 7 passes last week and hasn't been a starter for too long. So let's hear what Cam had to say on learning the tendencies of Mitch Trubisky.
7 times or 13 times in 2 games?
Yeah.
If you take from practice, I think we must have inverted this situation. I could have sworn he passed 53 times and ran 7. But no, in terms of what we did today to prepare for everything that he's shown, all 13 of those passes, I think we're fully equipped to handle. We got to be aware of course, the 2 running backs that have clearly impacted the game. When it comes down to it, it's going to be on D-line. It's going to be on the front 7 to get a hold of this run game. That's something that we've grown from as far as from Sunday to now. Clearly, we got to cut some leaky yardage out in this first quarter, the first half, and get back to that good football that we played in the second half of the last 2 games.
And, of course, Cam Jordan's one of the few players that are on the Saints team that have actually played with a winning record while with the Saints. Let's hear what Cam Jordan had to say about not being too thrilled despite a 4-2 start.
How can you get overly excited about, being 4-2 when there was clearly the first 2 games, it was clearly a way for us to win in each game. When you talk about the leaky yardage that we allowed to happen that first half in Green Bay, we allowed Brett Hundley to escape for 60-some yards. They still ran for another 120 on the ground. There was 180-something yards total in that game. That's something that you take pride in as a D-line to shut down. So that's something that we grow from every day. You can't get overly excited about this 4-2 when there's so much room for growth. So that's what we're looking for, improvement.
Let's take a quick break right here on the show. When we get back, we'll do our lock of the week, our upset of the week, fantasy stud of the week, and then, like I said, in about 12 or 13 minutes, we will have Saints Hall of Fame guard Carl Nix is going to jump on the show right here on Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. Dunc and Holder.
Had to get her number. been like 6 weeks. Now me and her go way back, like Cadillac seats. Body like a back road, driving with my eyes closed. I know every curve like the back of my hand.
Your forecast on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
This report brought to you by Take 5 Oil Change.
From the Fox 8 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Bruce Katz. TGIF, it is a big Halloween weekend, and today we're looking at temperatures getting up to 81 degrees. Not expecting a lot of rain.
What else we got to get done in this hour before Carl calls?
We just got to do our...
and then by morning, turning windy and colder.
All right, well, I'm going to kick out one of these spots.
Okay.
All right, so we're coming back in.
We're going to be brief in the segment, so it's up to you.
Yeah.
59 to 60.
Well, I mean, I'm assuming since you're teasing it, you must have gotten a confirmation.
Yeah, so he's going to call you, Dave.
Okay.
Just Bruce Katz with your Weather Authority forecast.
I'm going to pretend to be like some sort of like Chinese restaurant.
Take 5 locations open early, stay open late, and
hello.
Experience the
oh boy.
We don't try, Queen.
Oil change.
Sorry. I'm a terrible person.
All women who have been
Larry and I are not
reacting
reacting to your good insensitive remarks.
That's why I'm off screen.
Be professional journalists, damn it. Leave the comedy to us.
After 35 years of using the talcum baby powder product,
you get a head shake and oh boy.
Women who have long-term
voluntarily are like, these guys are pretty funny.
The risk of contracting ovarian.
Shh, stop. We can't point it out.
Diagnosed with ovarian cancer and used Johnson & Johnson or Shower to Shower baby powder prior to the diagnosis. Call Talcum Baby Powder Helpline today. 800-457-3280. You may be entitled to substantial compensation. The consultation is free, and you'll pay nothing unless there is a recovery in your favor. If you or a loved one used talcum baby powder-based products before being diagnosed with or died from ovarian cancer, call Talcum Baby Powder Helpline today. 800-457-3280. 800-457-3280. 800-457-3280.
Put $1,000 in your hand.
Win $1,000 every hour, up to 16 times a day, weekdays, starting at 5 a.m. When you...
All right, 10 seconds.
To 200-200, listen all day for a chance to put $1,000 in your hand on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Headed down south to the land of the pines. I'm thumbing my way.
Our insiders are talking your teams. Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Welcome back, Dunc and Holder. Our revamped picks segment here on the show. Lock of the week, upset of the week, fantasy stud of the week, and Jeff. What you got?
You got to be bold here. You got to be bold in this segment. Well, the lock of the week is easy. I'm jumping in and claiming this one before you two claim it. This is like the simplest lock of the week of all time. You have the Philadelphia Eagles at home against the 49ers. The worst team in the NFC against the best team in the NFC at Philadelphia. They name the score. This is going to be one of those games that they just have to avoid a letdown because you have a winless team going against what are the Eagles now, 6-1?
6-1 on a roll
at the Link, as they call it. So that's my lock of the week. I don't know how many points the Eagles will win by, but I don't think it'll be very close.
So I have to avoid that?
Yes. You can't claim it. I nailed it. It's all mine.
That's the point, man.
That's the point. You shouldn't have let me start the segment.
Lock of the week with Ravens over the Dolphins. Can I get that one?
No, you can't. No.
I'm going to go lock of the week, Chiefs over the Broncos. I think the Broncos are reeling. Their quarterback play has been... I'm going Chiefs to rebound Broncos. Lock of the week.
Lock of the week for me, guys. We're going back across the pond. Going across the pond to Twickenham Stadium, the home of English rugby. Vikings over the Browns in Twickenham. Vikings 5-2, Browns 0-7, and looking like a complete disaster. Regardless of whether or not Deshaun Kaiser, who is a 21-year-old dude, he can go and have some drinks on a Friday. It's fine. It's not
that story is so lame.
It's so bad. It really, really
NFL
is.
players go out on Friday nights everywhere.
That's their time to go out.
That's weak. I would not bet on that case at all.
And the fact that he came back and said, I'm not going to discuss my personal life, nor should he have to on a Friday and being back in the building on Saturday to get
If he wasn't arrested or something, who cares?
And that's when you know it's bad. When he does nothing. He does absolutely nothing but be a normal person.
That's the day and age we're in,
but that's weak.
With an 0-7 Browns team. Either way, Vikings over the Browns.
Okay, upset of the week. Again, I'm jumping in before you two can claim a game. I'm taking the Redskins against the Cowboys. The Redskins are a 1-point underdog. I think they're going to win the game straight up. They're playing in Washington. It's kind of for second place in the NFC East.
I don't know the spread, so I got a problem. I'm just going to wing it.
You do have a problem.
And just assume who's the underdog. Are the Jets favored? I don't know. Are they?
This is a great segment here, as usual. Let's see.
I don't come in this segment prepared. That's why I make terrible picks.
Hold on. The Jets are not favored, I don't think.
They shouldn't be favored.
No, they're 4.5 point.
And I'm going with the Jets.
Whoa, that's kind of bold.
Upset of the week. Jets.
Sounds like you put a lot of thought into this. What are you picking the Jets for? Just
because I think the Falcons are going down in tubes, down in flames. It's over.
Okay.
I'm going with a real upset here. Also doing no research.
Not a real upset.
A real upset here. Wait until I see what the spread is. I'm going one team that has been playing better and a team that I think still is a little shaky. I'm going with the Chargers going to New England and upsetting the Patriots in Foxborough.
Wow.
Whoa.
That is bold.
Woo. That was a hot take.
I know.
Spicy.
That's why we have Clyde on the show.
I'm talking spicy today.
Oh, my goodness. All right, fantasy stud of the week. Jeff, since you are so eager, come on, let's go.
I've got a kind of an outside-the-box pick here on this. I'm going to go with Tyrod Taylor against the Raiders. I think the Raiders' defense is pretty weak, and I like the Bills right now. They're playing well. They're in the hunt in that AFC East. They're good at home, and I think the Raiders kind of got lucky to beat the Chiefs the other night. I mean, I know with how many tries did they get at the goal line? They got like 5 tries because of all these penalties. Now they got to go all the way across country. Play in a tough place to play sometimes. Give me Tyrod Taylor. I think he's going to have a big game.
I am going to go with a familiar face, Brandon Cooksey, up in New England. I think that's going to happen. No Jason Verrett. I think their corners are shot. Hence, that would mean I would think Tom Brady would have a big day too. But I'm going to go with Cooksey. Deep touchdown, big game for Brandon Cooks.
Tom Brady calls him Cookie, not Cooksey.
Cookie,
yes,
like he's Bozo's sidekick.
Yes,
Cookie.
He is veered off of the Drew Brees Cooksey and calls him Cookie.
I think both of those names are terrible.
They are.
Just saying, both of those are just
Cookie
absolutely awful.
Cookie is Bozo's counterpart on Bozo the Clown.
Look, I love Drew Brees, but he's the worst nickname giver of all time. All he does is put a Y at the end of their last name. Cooksey, Sprolsey.
What do you call Jimmy? Jimmy.
I don't know.
Gramsy?
They need to have someone with a little style give the nicknames on the Saints.
Exactly. All right, Clyde, who's your fantasy stud of the week?
Fantasy stud of the week, we're actually going to go to your lock of the week. I'm going with Demaryius Thomas of the Broncos.
You're going against my lock.
I'm going against it, but I'm still going to that game, though. The Chiefs have been known to give up some big yardage, a lot of points. Going with a wide receiver that may be able to have a good game against that Chiefs secondary.
Who's going to throw in the football?
Does that matter as long as he catches it?
If it doesn't get to him, sure it matters.
I guess that's a good point, too.
Still, he's challenging your pick.
Yeah, he is, and I like it.
For all the grief I get in these pick segments, I better be able to take advantage if I see
dish it out.
Also
if
true.
I see something.
I'm about it. I'm totally about it. And I mean, it can't be any worse than last week. I picked Leonard Fournette. He didn't play. So, yeah.
Yeah. Good call.
Good call with that one.
Good call.
So there was that.
That might be the worst pick of all time.
You could have picked up Chris Ivory. He at least got in the end zone, so that's good.
That's true. Exactly. But I wasn't thinking of that. I was going with the head. Should have gone with, hey, no, he has a bruised ankle. He's not going to play on Sunday, and I didn't do that. So
and look, we should point out that there are 6 teams with byes this week, including Leonard Fournette's Jaguars, so he can get healthy.
Yes.
Cardinals, Giants, Packers, Rams, Titans, and Jags all off this week.
All right, real quick, I gave my Saints pick already. Jeff, what's your Saints pick?
I picked very similar score. I think it was like 27 or 28 to 18, or so. I had a weird 29-18. I like picking weird scores. I think I picked.
Tell us something we don't know.
29 to 19 or something like that.
All right, Clyde, what's your score?
Saints 30, Bears 17.
All right, just recap. I picked the Saints 27-16. The Saints to beat the Bears 27-16. So let's take a final break right here on the show, and when we get back, Saints Hall of Famer Carl Nicks. That's got a good ring to it. And I know he is thrilled. He was as giddy as a player could imagine, because it's almost like he hadn't been around the Saints for a while, and it's good to be known that people still appreciate him. And look, us in the media who did the voting, he was certainly one of the best players we watched play in a Saints uniform and deserves the honor. So Saints Hall of Fame guard Carl Nicks coming up here next. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. Dunc and Holder.
Corey Johnson.
LSU coming back from the dead.
4-6.
And you got to give it to Ed Ogeron. I wasn't too keen on the hire. And I'm not going to sit here and say, man, I'm sold on him now, but I love him keeping it together.
Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Right now, JCPenney has even more savings on everything you love. Get an additional 60% off clearance prices already reduced by 50 to 70%. Save on thousands of select items throughout the store, like apparel for you and your family. Plus, rewards members get a $10 bonus reward for every $50 spent in-store or at jcp.com through October 29. JCPenney. Prices valid through 10/29 in-store only. Clearance selections vary by store while supplies last. Savings off regular and original prices. Intermediate markdowns may have been taken. Maximum 3 bonus rewards per customer. Some restrictions and exclusions apply. See store or jcp.com for details.
As a small business owner, you make every dollar count. So what could you do with $10? Go to Vistaprint.com today and you'll get 500 high-quality custom business cards for only $9.99. That's less than 2 cents per card. And at Vistaprint, your satisfaction is absolutely guaranteed. So it's never been easier to turn 500 strangers into connections.
That's just working. I'm tired. I'm tired as all get out. I'm glad that LSU has a bye this week. Prep game tonight, Pels tomorrow, Saints on Sunday.
Are you going to Pels?
Walk with JDRF is November 18th.
First game of the year. I'm looking forward to it.
It'll be a great day of music, food, fun, and raising funds in the battle against juvenile diabetes. Go to JDRF.org. The YMCA second line for literacy 5K is November 11th.
I would love to see him be a tight end. That would be great.
The YMCA
Put some really good football player.
Put some pads on him, dude.
In Akron, right?
A message from
I can't remember the name of the school.
Communities helping make a difference.
It was St. Mary, right?
Yeah. It's like a wide receiver, I think.
The plague is spreading across Madagascar. More than 120 people
calls.
dead since August. Nearly 1,200.
I just put it on Twitter.
I've not retweeted
Eastern
it.
African
Well, I mean,
nations
J-Mac's going to be prodding him, so I think we're...
can be transmitted before symptoms, including fever and swollen lymph nodes, appear. Nearly 30 million Americans.
All right, we got him.
Type 2 diabetes, including an
Retweet
Emmy
it.
Award-winning
Never
actress who's
a doubt.
trying to educate others. Law & Order star
Except
Essa
always a doubt.
Murkison says she was stunned
Just
when
like
she was
hating your heart.
diagnosed with type 2 diabetes.
There's no doubt
even though
about
it
that.
runs in her family.
That's my advice for everyone. It's always good to have a little hate in your heart.
My grandmother lost her sight.
Words to live by.
Now Murkison is working on a public awareness campaign called America's Diabetes Challenge. She wants people to know they can live with type 2 diabetes if they're proactive about diet, exercise, and taking medication if needed. Health updates, Sarah Lee Kessler, NBC News Radio.
Poor old boy, it ain't his fault. It's so hard not to stare at that honky-tonk. But don't.
Dunc and Holder now. Josh Innes next at noon on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Welcome back. One final segment here on Dunc and Holder. Larry Holder, Jeff Duncan here with you at our NOLA.com Times-Picayune studios. And pleased to be joined by Saints Hall of Fame guard Carl Nicks. That's got a great ring to it, and I'm sure, Carl, you're very pleased with the honor. Good to catch up with you, and just how thrilled are you just to be within that group? And we're starting to see some of those names from the Super Bowl team get involved in the Saints Hall of Fame.
Yeah, thanks for having me first off. And I don't know, I was thinking about it the last couple of days, where this ranks in, Super Bowls and Pro Bowls and All-Pro stuff like that. This might be the top. It's a huge honor, and I'm extremely humbled by it.
Carl, when you look back, now that you've been out of the league for a while, I know it tends to give perspective, and you look back on those great Saints teams that you played on in 2009 and 2011, teams that we covered, and it seems like the farther we get from those teams, the more special it is. Is it the same for you?
Yeah, I mean, I just did an interview prior, and we were kind of going on the Super Bowl season, and it was just so, like, I remember so much about it, you know, because it was such an important part of my life. And yeah, I didn't play in the league too long, but those years that I was with the Saints, it's going to last a lifetime, and I'm just blessed that I was a part of that. And still, they treat me like, you know, I got to play, you know, this Sunday. So it's a huge honor and blessing to be a part of the Saints organization. I'm going to be, you know, my kids' kids are going to be able to say, hey, that was my great grandfather, Hall of Famer. So there's nothing better than that.
Carl, just as a point of, you know, Jeff and I talking to you in the locker room, we always have just appreciated your honesty. And I remember distinctly two quotes that you've had. One was right when you were drafted, and you were about as blunt as humanly possible as why your draft stock fell. It was like the incident, whatever happened in Nebraska. You said, how do you think it affected your draft stock? You said it murdered it, and we all looked. I was like, "Wow, this guy's pretty vivid." And then the awesome quote when you're on the field after winning the Super Bowl, you just say, "I'm going to MF and Disneyland." I was like, "That is classic perfection," and Carl being a great player and just honesty to a T. We loved it.
Yeah, it's hard to remember. You want to be PC and you want to be, you know, kind of, you know, calculated answers, but at the end of the day, most people are going to respect if you just be honest and tell them how you really feel. And my dad taught me, and, you know, be respectful with it, but, you know, be yourself and be honest.
Carl, you protected number 9 here during your tenure, and he's still going strong for the New Orleans Saints. What are your thoughts on Drew Brees? Do you think he can continue to play for a while at this elite level?
I'm pretty sure he's going to battle Tom Brady on who's going to play longer. You know, who gets older. You know, when Brett Favre was 40 doing it, everybody, you know, it was a big deal, and it is a big deal. But I see Drew trying to take Tom to the limit and play till he's darn near 50. You know, he's playing at a high level now. He doesn't look his age at all. You know, and the way he's playing, like Jar used to always tell me, we got Drew Brees, we got a chance. And that still holds weight to this day. So I see at least 7 more years, 5 more years out of that.
Saints Hall of Fame guard Carl Nix joining us right here on Dunc and Holder. Carl, look, you jumped in the starting lineup relatively quickly. You know, and once you jumped in there, you became a force right away. When you came into the league, do you feel like you picked it up quickly and just you went from, you know, ground level to Pro Bowl to All Pro pretty quickly with the Saints team?
Yeah, I think, again, I had a big chip on my shoulder because, you know, I messed my draft stock up, you know, which is 110% my fault. Being a dumb college kid thinking, you know, I need to be humble, dog. I was like, yeah, I'm going to be a first-round pick, and, you know, I'm going to be this and that, and so I'm a fifth-round pick, and coach is chewing me out on draft day. It's supposed to be the best day of my life, and he's giving me an earful like, why are you still on the board? You can't be doing that stuff here. You're better than that. And, you know, it was not the draft day I expected, but it just humbled me. And every day coach would be like, you know, this isn't a redshirt year, which basically saying we expect you to play this year. Don't just, you know, you're big and you can move, but we expect you to play and play at a high level. And I was thankful enough I got to play with Jari Evans, and I just tried to mimic him. And I seen what he did on and off the field, and it was just kind of easy for me to emulate.
Carl, what made Jari such a great player? What stands out about his ability?
First is the head on the shoulder. This guy knows the assignment. He knows defensive line tendencies. He knows if they're heavy, if they're going to bull rush, if they're looking light, if they're going to stunt. This guy's recovery skills. You know, you could shock Jari and drive him back, but the way he recovers and moves his feet and hands to get that leverage back is I've never seen anybody to this day do that. He's physical. He's a great pass blocker. He was just a total package, and I was just like, I want to be like him. So he had so many attributes. You know, if I could take a little bit from this and a little bit from that, you know, kind of put my own spin on it, I could do my thing. So I just thank God I had Ja. And I had Drew throwing the ball a second every time. You didn't have to block too long, you know, so.
Carl, you mentioned Jari. Look, and when you guys were all pro together, first team all pro, just playing so well together. I mean, how gratifying was it that you two guys were the creme de la creme, the top of the charts as far as the best guards in the NFL?
Man, I can remember us talking about it in Hawaii. Just, man, like, has this ever been done? Like, we were just so shocked. Yeah, I ended up leaving the next year, but me and Jar, you know, we're friends forever, and we still talk about that to this day. You know, he was at my wedding, I was in his. He was so good, and the fact that we were both good and we were on the same team and we were real good friends, it just made it all that much easier.
So, Carl, you're back in town for the Hall of Fame. The banquet tonight, going in with John Vilma and Jay Romig. What are you doing these days? What keeps you busy?
Yeah, so as soon as I got done, I started a real estate company with my brother-in-law, and right now we're in the commercial real estate, and we had bought a 106-unit apartment complex down in Sacramento. We're in talks of another one, so that's what we're doing. And I've been coaching 14-year-old like youth football right before they get 13, 14-year-old right before they get into high school. So imagine AAU basketball, like they travel, you know, but that's for football. So that's what we had going, and we're doing that for the last 2 years, and I really enjoy that. So, you know, running my company and coaching, that's basically what I've been doing, and raising my family. Spending way more time with my kids and being a soccer dad and taking the baseball practice. And it's been a dream come true, and the Saints allow me to do that.
Well, Jeff needs a house. He's house hunting. You got any advice for him?
Yeah, don't buy any houses in California.
Exactly. Saints Hall of Fame guard Carl Nix joining us right here on Dunc and Holder. What do you imagine walking back into the Dome Sunday? Look, the crowd's going to be jacked up because the Saints are playing well, and then it's you, John Vilma, Jay Romig, everybody is going to be fired up to see you on Sunday in a sold-out Superdome.
Yeah, and it's always Superdome's always sold out, you know, and it's been that way for a while, but it's going to be a lot of nostalgia, a lot of memories, a lot of, you know, high fives, and I don't know. This whole
3 minutes.
Soak it in like if I was at the Super Bowl week, you know. It's life changing. It's gratifying. And it's just a blessing to be able to say, you know, I'm a Saints Hall of Famer. Like every time he keeps saying Saints Hall of Famer, it blows my mind. You know, it's extremely humbling.
Well, Carl, I'm going to say it forever, so there you go. I hope it doesn't get old for you. Saints Hall of Fame guard Carl Nix in town. Of course, him, John Vilma, and Jay Romig being inducted into the Saints Hall of Fame. Carl, appreciate you. Appreciate your honesty as a reporter covering you for so long, and congrats on all of your accomplishments, and especially this weekend. And appreciate you jumping on the show.
Thank you so much. I appreciate everything. Thank you.
You got it. That's Carl Nix, Saints guard, one of the best to ever play for the New Orleans Saints, no question about it. And you got to see vintage Carl in the interview. That's why I always made it a point, because let's
2 minutes.
Let's have this great player just tell you like it is, and it's refreshing.
And you got the sense in the interview today, he's just a gentle giant. I mean, he was a massive guy, and he had such incredibly light feet for a player of his size. But incredibly powerful, but also very thoughtful. When you would ask him questions, and you got that sense today, he thought about his answers. It wasn't cliches with Carl Nix, and a very deserving inductee in the Saints Hall of Fame. That was a no-brainer.
Absolutely. For me, it was, yeah. And there are a lot of people. Look, you and me are on the board to make voting of the Saints Hall of Fame, and there are a lot of tough choices because there's only a couple. I think, what's the policy? We vote two in.
Correct.
2 players max in each year, and it's going to be a log jam because we've got so many good and
Super Bowl era
qualified players. Because in previous years you could say, oh well, this guy, because it's not like they had a ton of all-time greats that you had to sift through.
He's genuinely humbled by the induction, too. You can tell it means a great deal to him, and I really respect that.
Absolutely. So, yeah, want to thank Carl Nix, want to thank Todd Grappanini. Want to thank Jim Derry, and want to thank you
and
guys
my sister
for listening. And Pam, happy birthday!
Great song choice.
Absolutely.
Great weekend of sports coming up, man. Enjoy it.
Absolutely. You missed the show, sports1280.com, NOLA.com, iTunes, SoundCloud, and YouTube page. So, and look, we'll have all the coverage of all things Saints, Pelicans, Cavaliers. We'll have all that covered, wrap that up coming up Monday. So come on back. Thanks for joining us on sports1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. We're Dunc and Holder.
All right, guys, good show.
All right,
Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
All right, you have a good weekend.
Yeah, you too, buddy.